So now, last I spoke with you, you were looking for your next opportunity,
I
or
have found it.
thinking about
Yeah.
next opportunities. Um, are you what's going on with that?
I am now. Well, basically, they liked me.
Oh,
And we've had all the interviews, and they're like, "Yep, I think we're gonna extend you an offer." And so they just went off. They're gonna have one last meeting with the hiring committee, and then I should hear back tomorrow.
super.
So, yeah, I'm not expecting any problems there, and the company seems great. They're a little Instacart competitor. Um, so that's a good niche to be in right now. It's a needed software space.
Now, will you be
So.
doing app development still?
Mhm. Yeah, their solution is heavily app based, so they have a lot to do there for both individual like customers, because it's both a kind of order and an in person deal,
Mm-hmm.
and then the delivery service on the side. So everybody's kind of using apps to scan their groceries sometimes and put them in carts and stuff like that. So there's a lot of app to do there.
Neat.
There's a lot of app to do there. So they're bringing it up to four each Android and iOS engineers at this point, and they're probably going to cruise on that for about a year. It sounds like the plan.
That's good. Yeah, no, that's. I'm glad you found something quick.
Yeah, me too. That was it was unexpectedly, um, yeah, convenient. I guess that my previous interview had gone so well that they're like, "Hey, we need another Android engineer. Call that girl back," and
It's
now I have a job. So
it's
there you go.
certainly weird. Like, yeah, I've had a few weird interviews because I was like thinking back on my career a little bit the other day,
Hmm.
and so I had two weird. So normally I let you talk, so this is like my like I get to actually talk a little more.
Yeah.
um, so I I interviewed with this startup when they were in like idea phase, like
Okay.
no money raised, and they didn't have money of their own to start. So it was like, all right, really super early. But it was a bunch of like working high level exec moms that wanted to start a spa and media empire for working moms.
Okay.
And it was a good idea, but I
Okay.
stressed that it was like really early stage. So they brought me in to have a meeting. And I think for the first time in my tech career, it was me surrounded by a bunch of women. And I was like, okay, and it was
Nice.
like, all
Okay.
right, this is an interesting vibe. So I listened, I listened most of the time, and then was like, tech wise, I was like, well, here are some of the ideas we can do. Here are some of the things,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they were like, all right, we really like this. I was like, okay. But it was like an hour and a half meeting. I've had so many hour and a half meetings with startups, I can't even count them on one hand. So a week later, they said, we want you to be our CTO. And I'm like, okay, great. Here are my salary requirements. And, here's what I would expect. Things. And they're like, well, we don't have any funding yet. And I'm like, okay, then you can't hire me, but we can still talk. And, when things line up.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, that sounds good. So a week later, they're like, so we're having this other meeting. Would you come? And I'm like, I'll have these meetings, but I don't work for you yet. I'm like, we're still talking. I'm like, and I know how hard raising money is, and I can't stop like the hunt. So I was pretty clear that like I'm kind of
Yeah.
wishy washy. But I went to this meeting. We had another great meeting, and it was all good. So then the next week, they sent me an email saying, hey, we're having another meeting on a weekend. And I said, I can't come because it was my wife's baby shower, and I was there.
Oh yeah, and
So
that's no.
they
Like
said,
that's
okay, well, can you at least try and call in? I said, I'll try, but I don't think I can. And I couldn't call in.
well, yeah, it's your
And
wife's baby
yeah,
shower. That's
exactly.
like
So on Monday, they're like, you couldn't call in and make the meeting. I said it was my wife's baby shower. I was busy the weekend. And they're like, well, why didn't you tell us? That's really important. And I'm like, because I've had 2 meetings with you, and that's my personal life. I don't bring my, like, it's,
yeah.
and they're like, I don't think
tell
that's
strangers my
professional
plans all
of
the
you.
time.
And I was like, I don't work for you yet. So obviously I didn't end up working for them, and I kind of wish they were successful. They had such a great idea, but it was such a weird taste that they dumped me because I wouldn't have a meeting over the weekend and I didn't tell them it was an important life event for me because you don't mix business I don't know. It was kind of silly.
There are those business relationships that you break off and you're like, oh man, I wish I hadn't broken that off. And then there's those business relationships where you're just like, oh man, I think I dodged a bullet.
Yeah. I had an interview with a cybersecurity company once, and the owner of the company, like, he first sat down and he goes, I just want to let you know, do you know the guy who misspelled referrer in HTTP? And I'm like, I mean, I know it's misspelled. He's like, do you know how many bytes that saved the internet? That guy is the crux why the internet is so fast. I'm like, okay. And he's like, I hired that guy. He works here. And I'm like, I don't want to be here.
Oh, no. Although, when you start to actually get to the math on maybe I should save this for later. When you get to the math on, like, how much carbon you can save if you maintain a core library by optimizing your core library. Like,
oh, I agree, but
when that gets distributed across millions of projects.
But it was a typo, because if he truly wanted to save bytes, he would have just said ref.
Oh, gotcha. And so this was, he literally misspelled it, so it was like one character,
one letter
or
less.
Something.
Yeah,
1 letter less.
Yeah.
Right,
I mean, granted, maybe he was a genius, but either way, like, when this guy, that was his, like, he was proud that he got that guy. That guy works for him, and only the best work for him. And I'm like,
see, the thing is, it's not the first time it's been done, because they did that with the printing presses back when you had to charge by the letter for those.
That's
true. Why we don't have you on our colors anymore.
Yes. Actually, is that true?
That's at least the myth I've heard. I have not, like, gone through the journalistic process to vet it, but
I actually have connections who could validate that, and I will find out.
Okay,
I'm truly curious if the Americans drop the U's because of printing costs. I mean, it's an interesting story.
It's probably because it was just America, not the British. I'm going to guess it has something to do with the cost of overseas, so like telegrams and stuff. But yeah, it'd be interesting to know where it actually.
It sounds like something Americans would do. I can save money, and sound stupid. It sounds like plan.
Color sounds the same if you spell it without the U. If you sound it out.
Well, and if you follow the startups, you just drop the last vowel anyway and just make it COLR, and we're all good.
Oh dear.
All right. Well, the requisite 10 minutes has passed,
right.
So it gives some people some time. So I'll start this off. So this is the virtual Fireside Chat, and the goal for starting this was that I wanted to be able to share a campfire with people. I love that. And between quarantine and just between distance, it's hard. I mean, I couldn't share a campfire with you even if I really wanted to, just because we're on opposite coasts. But we can do this here, and we can do it virtually. And so I was like, all right, so how do I kind of guide this in a unique way that is, somewhat guided, but also still freeform? And I've been getting involved very heavily with a lot of developer communities, especially people changing careers as a second career, third career, and people just, getting started. And that's when I realized that there's been a lot of different journeys within technology. And usually that journey, especially for people over a certain age where you're not raised, I mean, my son's raised with technology and coding from second grade. Whereas people who are over 30 often get introduced to it on their own or because of an uncle or an aunt, or it's always some outside force, so there's usually an interesting story behind it. So that's kind of why I chose the tech journey as the interesting story. That, and also I know a lot of tech people that can give me stories. So that said, so this is the third of those series, and I have with me Aerin, who is an Android app engineer, a martial artist, and a gamer from the Seattle area. And I met Aerin several years ago in a wonderful Twitch chat. It happened to be John Bams, who is a Minecraft streamer, to whom which I have an interesting and fun history with. But John was talking about what he could do to engage his community a little more. And someone said, bring up a sub-server. And I said, well, why don't you bring up a modded sub-server? And to which the first response I got was Aerin saying, well, actually, do you realize how intensive a modded server is? And how quickly that would just die. Your idea is terrible, and you should go put on the dunce cap. I paraphrase a little here, but it was something.
I hope it wasn't that mean.
Well, it was a quick, like, don't make chat chant this, because if they do, we might have to actually do it, and I'm going to be the one to have to figure it out.
That is, yes, I would totally be willing to believe that I was with you over that. Oh dear.
So at least that's what started it. So I respectfully took that hint, but then privately messaged and said, okay, why would this be so crazy? Why would this be so dumb? And lo and behold, that started a wonderful friendship that actually got me into streaming in the first place, because Aerin was one of the first people to help me out technologically and be like, hey, OBS, and hey this and hey that. And then just kind of help me get started, in general. So that little intro. So I will let you introduce yourself, and then I'll kind of get started with questions.
Oh boy, I didn't prep a self-intro. Hi, I'm Aerin. I'm a goofball. I grew up on the outskirts of a cult and got out of it, and that explains a lot about me today, as I went through 3 different parallel journeys of software engineer, martial artist, and gamer. It gets a little wild through the middle, but, willing to talk about some of the weirder points if you guys want to get into it. Feel free to ask questions, too. I'm pretty open about it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. I'll let you know if there's anything that's like, don't want to go into that.
You got it. All right. So let's start with a little bit out of order. So you are an Android developer.
Sure.
What about Android development drew you in, and what keeps you there?
Accident and the challenge. So I got into software development because of games. I wanted to program games. Well, that and robotics, but we'll get into that later. I wanted to program games. Through my later teens, I had spent a lot of time playing Guild Wars, which is a very popular MMO at the time, by ArenaNet. And it was inspiring to me. Like this team of it felt to me like a small team of developers that came out of nowhere and just built this really, really cool game that competed on the stage with, the likes of Blizzard. So I went and asked them, and they're like, hey, you should get this a general software degree, not like a gaming degree from DigiPen, because it'll give you more technical skills that can be more valuable. A lot of the DigiPen stuff will do game design, but not necessarily like algorithm design. And sometimes, games really need an algorithm designer, and that's a more valuable skill, or a more difficult skill to learn. So there are fewer people who do it. So I did that. And then I couldn't find a gaming job. It was 2010. It was right around the, we're still recovering from that 2008 recession. You could not get a job anywhere without a year of experience. You just weren't getting it. So, I started expanding my net wider and wider and wider. Like, all right, well, I've done mostly Java. What can I do? I can do like server development. I can do this. I can do that. I found this company that was offering pretty good money, actually, to go out in the middle of Ohio and do BlackBerry development. So I told my
now
dad,
for the little kids out there, what's a BlackBerry?
"What's a BlackBerry?" Oh, geez, These were the first phones with keyboards. Um, I think there might have been some Nokia models, but basically, the first thing BlackBerry did really well is business texting.
Yeah.
Is basically, yeah. What's your favorite? Okay, yeah, later. Um, yeah, they did texting keyboards and email on a phone first, and very very well for the time. And when the iPhone kind of climbed to popularity, they realized that the app platform was kind of the way the market was going. So BlackBerry wasn't going to be able to be content with, oh, well, we have your calendar and your email and your whatever, and it integrates with Microsoft or Google or Apple or whatever. It became too limited. They were going to need this app market space, so they built their own platform. And they're like, hey, we need apps for it. There's this contractor, a consulting firm out in middle of nowhere, Ohio, that's got a bunch of BlackBerry developers. Or a bunch of developers. Let's send a trainer out there. We'll train them on this new platform. We'll get a whole bunch of apps for our platform going, so that people will enjoy this thing. I sent it out, and they got us all trained up, and then the BlackBerries sucked. Um, it was really really unfortunate. I think they may have managed to fix them at some point, but over the time period where I was trying to develop on them, they were woefully unfinished. If you wrote a file to the file system, you could completely corrupt the entire OS. It would literally like what's that called when you do it in memory? Segfault. It would like segfault on files in the hard drive into system files. It would. I don't.
Oh.
It was bad. It was bad. So eventually they split us into two groups, iOS and Android. At the time, I had some major beef with Apple. I don't remember what it was. It might have been like the child labor stuff at the time. I don't remember. In any case, I was like, screw Apple. I want to do Android. So they split the 16 of us into 12 iOS and 4 Android because nobody wanted Android. But it was good to have that checkbox on the team.
Sounds like a fair split.
Oh, geez. It was a very interesting company. We were also very clearly bait in a bait and switch routine, where they would get the very fancy business like executives to come through and like, here's our development center and here's our glass atrium and here's all our developers working hard in their suits along these cubicles. And then they get the contract and they ship it off to India. So we never actually had any actual work to do. We were just looking busy and writing demos all the time. And I hated it because I felt useless. I was like, all right, well, I can do Android. Let's find a job now. I've got a year of experience. Where can I go? I ended up out at Amazon. Amazon needed an Android developer. And it just kind of unfolded from there. Once I had a year at Amazon, everybody wanted me. So, turned around and immediately got a junior job at a startup that's like, hey, we don't have a lot of money, but we need an Android app. And here, you're it. Figure it out. And I did. And that was the first time I was really just kind of given the freedom to, the entire project is yours. Here's our requirements. Make it. And I did. There were some stumbling blocks. I had some mistakes at the beginning, but by the time I was about 6 months into that project, it was a damn solid app. It didn't crash. It ran really well on a lot of devices. It had a extremely smooth scrolling, which was difficult to get at the time, depending on what you were doing. I was really, really proud of it. And then the startup ran out of money, and he had to sell a bigger company, and it just dissolved. So, that's kind of been my entire career. I've just had a series of these, some really fun and some really not jobs that kind of have always kept me building Android apps, and it's always been really fun.
Okay.
It's a challenge. The platform, you don't get a Ryzen to run on. You can't waste CPU cycles. Every instruction you waste is battery percentage. Every process you have running in the background, that's someone's data plan, right? Streaming data across the internet. So you have to do as much as you can with as little as you can on these devices, or you have a bad app. And so I really enjoy the challenge. It's you can't skate by in Android app development and end up with a good result.
No, that's yeah, that's certainly true, and it's the opposite of the web dev world where it's like, what can we get done? We know we're running on a PC. Who gives a crap about processing and battery and
I hear horrendous comments about the JavaScript library folders for like a node project.
yeah, I come from a pure JavaScript world, so
Okay.
when I now have been introduced to React and Node and some other things, and I'm like, I had to install how many gigabytes of stuff to get this to run? I'm like, this is a Hello World app. Can we keep it under 32K?
Yeah.
It's yeah. Pendulum definitely swings differently depending on what you're developing. So in that, so you mentioned a lot of different size of companies, and a lot of different, interesting roles. So what did you like and dislike most about each of those experiences? And obviously, Amazon is a unique beast into itself, but at the end of the day, it is still a large company, and there's
Sure, yeah.
good and bad to both.
There's definitely, the smaller the company is, the more invested they have to be in you. When you are running on minimal resources, and whether or not your company lasts 2 years or 3 years or 4 years depends entirely on some of your day-to-day choices. You have to invest in your devs. You have to put effort into developing them and making them better at their jobs, because you can't afford to just get rid of them and hire another one. That's expensive. Hiring and firing is really, really expensive, and you need to set aside money for the legal stuff if something goes sideways. At a bigger company, they don't care as much. You're one of many, and you're just as replaceable as the next dev that they hire as part of their ongoing hiring budget. And so you can do an equally good job at two different companies and be appreciated at vastly different amounts, purely based on, in a lot of times, some pretty arbitrary metrics, like how many tickets did you complete? Well, that's really easy to game. You take on all the small tickets, all the really easy ones. The ones that you can write a regex for and just be like, control, boink, done. All right. And that's not the way I work. The way I work is, okay, what skill set do I have that maybe the rest of the team is lacking on? So I'm good at these things where the rest of the team isn't. So these tickets that require this skill set, maybe those are the ones that I should take on. And a lot of times those are the hard ones, which are the ones more likely to run long, are the ones more likely to not be done as frequently as a small ticket, are the ones that... So like everything about my work style makes these arbitrary metrics paint me in a bad light, kind of. And so it's one of the reasons I like startups is they appreciate that kind of stuff. You put time in to fix things when you didn't have to. Because somebody was going to trip over that eventually, right? It doesn't matter who gets to it. It had to be done. Somebody should do it. And just kind of the mentality of that, of just develop work with your developers, make them better at what they do, tell them ways that they can be better rather than the ways that they're failing. Yeah, I don't have a lot of good things to say about big companies.
Okay.
They have a lot of funding. They're stable. If you want a stable job and you're willing to game the system for it, great. Big companies are for a lot of people. In fact, I know a couple where you could skate on by with almost minimal effort whatsoever.
Okay.
Not places I want to work.
No, and that's completely fair. And those are two very real real positives for some people. Is hey, stability, and you don't have to.
I could see a lot of single dads. I could see a lot of single dads being really good at that kind of a job. Low effort. I can save my energy for at home. Oh dear.
Oh. All right. So let's rewind.
But yeah.
Pretty big. So when was the first time? What was your first line of code?
My first line of code. Does block programming count?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's code. Oh wait! Block programming,
no.
like putting two pieces of
Barcode.
Lego together.
No. My first programming was in a barcode language.
Oh, okay.
I think was it for Christmas? It was a birthday. It was pretty early on. I was probably about 7 or 8. And I was very much into Legos at the time. If you put me in front of a bucket of Legos, I would be happy for hours. I would build all sorts of things all over the place, and then knock something over and break it, and be really upset and tear it all down in frustration, and then build something else. And that's just kind of my life. Oh, to be a kid again. I was into Technic Legos, especially the ones that I could put the gears on, the things to do things like, oh, this interaction is neat. I can get the gears to make this. Do these things. I was fascinated by scissor, the scissor mechanism, where
oh yes, like the extendable
if you
arms
to like the crosses all over and in a row, so you squeeze one end and it goes from like this long to super wide. Built those out of Legos, and my dad's like, okay, I'm into tech. Clearly, my kids going the same way. Let's go for the real stuff here. Bought me a the Lego Technic set where it came with a brick, a computer brick, and a sheet of barcodes. And so you can scan a barcode and it'd be like, okay, truck program. You built the truck. It'll run the truck program. Oh, you built the robot. All right, you can scan the robot program. Oh, you want to do it yourself? Here's all of the commands and loop structures and everything that you would need to rebuild all of these, the truck program and the robot program yourself from individual commands. Can't tell you how many hours I sat there with the stupid thing, little barcode. Shit, it didn't read that one. Now I gotta start over.
Oh.
Yeah. Transition from there into Lego Mindstorms. They had their little block programming thing. I had the RCX going for a while. I was getting to do all sorts of shit. Eventually that became 2 RCX bricks. I had the camera.
Was the original the original Mindstorm, or I guess I'm not sure which one you were using. Was that block based? And I guess everyone calls that the Scratch interface now. Although I have a feeling Scratch didn't invent that. But was it the drag and drop, or was it coding? Because I remember at some point the Mindstorm did have a code type-in based language.
I remember looking at that, and I never actually got into it, which kind of disappointed me, because there's all sorts of cool things you can do with real code and the robotics platform they provide. I don't remember which one was the first. I really don't. I definitely got the one that was kind of meant to be done via the block programming.
Okay.
It had connected via COM port. You had to restart the computer if it wasn't connected when booted. Yeah, technology, yo. The second kit that I ended up buying with my allowance had a USB one. That was so much cooler. You didn't have to reboot the computer at all when you plugged it in. Oh man, yeah. But yeah, I got into robotics from there, and then discovered video games. That was where kind of my interests in programming switched from robotics to video games, and it's kind of coming back. I'm looking into a lot of robotics. I would like to start doing more projects. I need a desk like yours that I don't care about if I put burnt holes in with my soldering iron.
Piece of plywood.
You know what? Yeah. I might just get a piece of plywood to put on my desk.
Actually, I literally have from Target these plastic pull-out drawers, and I just have them. They're stackable too, so they're just stacked on top of each other, and then the plywood's on top of that. Because if I ever want to move it, I just take the plywood off and
move the drawers one at a time.
Everything's in there.
Yeah,
the drawers are labeled with what's on them. I can't say it's organized. I can't say it's great, but I tried.
Yeah, but yeah, I've been honestly, I've been wanting to take on a couple, like, just kind of, I want to build something impressive projects.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the Rooster Teeth series, Ruby? RWBY?
No.
Okay, it's an animated series. The general premise is it's kind of this alternate sort of fantasy but teched up world where the darkness is kind of literally personified as these beasts. They feed on fear. They are attracted to negative emotions. And they train these young men and women to go fight them with weapons that they build and design themselves. And so the cast of characters is literally as varied as the weapons that these characters carry are as varied as the characters themselves.
Mm-hmm.
No two characters have the same weapon. And they all transform in some way. They're all gunblades, technically. But like variations on the gun blade. So there's the person who literally just has a blade and it's a gun and it fires bullets and it cuts. Yay, okay, that's kind of cool. And then somebody has one that has it's a revolver, and each revolver cylinder is a magic dust crystal they can use for to create effects. And so you have the sniper scythe, the rocket launcher hammer, the it got into some really weird combinations, but they all transform really impressively. And as I watched this series, I realized that the original designer actually built most of these so that they could do the things that, like, the volume is roughly there for most of them. If you don't worry too much about ammo. But that means that in theory, someone could take these designs and, use 3D modeling technology and 3D printing technology to replicate them in ways that could be actually functional enough to be a prop weapon.
Okay.
So, instead of someone who goes out with, they've got their wood hammer they built, which, a lot of those look really good. You could have one that comes out as the grenade launcher, and then you flip a switch, and then suddenly you've got a warhammer. And it's all done just because of the way the thing was built. You can tell that each of these segments of the stock that fits into your shoulder becomes a segment of the handle that extends down. So I'm looking forward to getting into that and seeing if I can do some of that. I definitely have the programming skills to get it to work. I definitely have the 3D printing skills. Let's see if I have the time. And, see when I get into the weeds, if current modern technology actually gives me small enough components to do it.
Chances are yes.
Chances are yes. It depends largely.
I mean, if you want to actually have a laser that and actually a rocket launcher, you might have a problem.
Well, okay, no, because I'd be using like LEDs to simulate firing effects and stuff like that, right? But I had an example here, and I can't remember what it was. In any case, that's kind of something I'm looking to get into. That was always the fun side of programming for me, I guess. And that sort of tried to make that gaming, and then I kind of missed gaming on my way out the career door.
Okay.
And then realized that I didn't really like gaming. So
okay.
As a programming career, the not good news comes out of the gaming industry for programming career quality. So
it's
sorry, just to segue that I segued that kind of hard. That's kind of where I'd like to take some of my skills now that I've sort of brought this full circle. Is I have the Android knowledge. I have this. Let's do a lot of cool stuff on minimal memory and processing power. Let's bring this back to robotics, put it in something kind of cool, and get it to do something impressive with all of the stuff that has gone through my head over this entire career. And I think I can do it. It's going to be a fun challenge.
I'm sure
a little
you
bit
can.
different from
It's
my
just
normal Android. Yeah, it's just
it's just a challenge.
A couple of rails are going to be a little bit difficult to get a couple pieces that slide back and forth where they clearly pass through solid matter. Yeah.
It's structural integrity is always hard because you're balancing both cost and material. Because if you have something like titanium that is light but strong, it's really hard to work with. It's also very expensive. Whereas if you have something like wood, you can have soft wood, which is going to dink, dent, and crack.
Right.
But you can easily work with it. Or you have a hardwood that is really hard to work with and is going to be really heavy, but it'll hold structure. So that's what I've always bumped into.
I'm thinking the way that I'm probably going to try to go is I'm going to learn to weld.
Okay.
I'll get some like a welding torch and then get some scrap metal that I can form into like a structure, essentially, and then just take metal pieces, bend them into circles, hammer them into the right shape, and then, okay, here's my structure. Now I've got some 3D printed parts. I just screw that to the structure, and anything that moves the structure then moves the outside shell. So you have your internal mechanics and then your facade on it, essentially. And
more power to you.
ultimately, that's when you start looking at it, that's how literally everything in the world is built. There's a core structure, and then most of what products you find are a fancy facade on
Oh yeah,
this core structure.
very true, very true. So it sounds like
Anyway.
you've been surrounded by tech for a while. So you said your dad was in tech.
Yeah,
Yes?
I was.
Okay.
I kind of got a little nervous when you started talking about this alternate path thing, because I kind of fit the usual path of, I got into it because of my dad. He paid for my college.
Well,
I owe him a nice retirement home.
I'm not sure that's. I'm not sure that's the normal path either.
Oh, okay.
I think that's. I mean, it is a path. I wouldn't say it is a unique path that has never been gone down before. But I actually, I mean, if you think about it, there's a lot less people in technology in the 70s and 80s. So to have a parent in technology is actually kind of rare.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. It certainly did wonders for my ability to get through college, because I skipped classes. I went in there and they're like, where should we place you in the computer program? And they're like, all right, what's an optical disc? I'm like, oh, that's like the CD drive, and you put it in, it uses the laser. And they're like, oh, well, all right. We were just looking for the disc you stick in the slot and it reads data off it, but that's fine.
Well, so I guess since you mentioned it, so what was your path for college? What did you major in? Did you have any shifts there?
I was pretty set on a programming degree from the start. I ended up going to community college for the plan was an associate's degree to start, but
Okay.
when you looked at all the kind of requirements and what would transfer and what wouldn't, it didn't make sense to go out of my way to get the associate's degree, rather than just go for the credits that would transfer to UW, which was kind of the goal. I ended up at UW's Tacoma campus, where they had a really, really good programming curriculum down there. And it was the opposite direction of traffic, both ways. So since it was a 40-minute drive without traffic each way, that really helped. We lived way out in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, so community college into UW, UW tech program. I kind of went after a lot of the interesting technologies to me, multi-threading,
Okay.
a little bit of OpenGL. Never really got into like operating systems, which is apparently a class that half my peers were forced to take. It's like, how did you get through college without taking an operating systems class? Like, who
That
takes
was
a write
actually-
your own operating system class?
That was one of the first books that was given to me, because I do not have a computer science degree. And I was a big fan of hiring new grads. And I would always ask them, I'm like, what one book do I need to read to get caught up on the things that I missed? And my one of the kids I hired, he literally handed me it's called like, I just forget what it's called, but it has dinosaurs on it. And it was called, like, it was just literally called Operating Systems, and there's a dinosaur on it. And he's like, just read this, it's all you need to know. I was like, okay. It was enlightening, I have to say. It opened my eyes to a world I was unaware of.
Yeah, I mean, like, knowing how operating systems works is really important to know. And understanding what your operating system is doing, no matter what your platform is, if that's, Chrome, if you're a web developer, Windows, Android. It's important. I'm not so sure it's important to learn how to write one. But
yeah, that is true.
yeah, like understanding how they work and what they're doing under the hood is absolutely valuable.
So then your college, you said OpenGL, so it was more focused. So at that point, you were thinking game. It sounds like you were focused on
I was
games.
still thinking gaming, yeah. They didn't have a DirectX course, so I figured, what the hell, OpenGL's got to be similar, right?
Now, was that all Java?
That was all done in Java. So we were using JOGL, Java OpenGL.
Okay.
I think was the library. But it was pretty bare bones. You know, it gave you define an area, define a frustum. Here's your camera.
Mm.
You know, there's your object. Here's a triangle fan, and then you've got to figure out which points to select in series to get the cube out of it. Yeah, it was fun. Professor really phoned that class in, but I had a really good friend through college that we were. I found that guy who was as interested in programming as I was.
Okay.
And we became friends, and then we took all of our classes together at the same time together so that we could do all of our group projects as a pair team.
Very smart.
And I missed like the last 2 years worth of group project strife by just keeping these two friends with me and always working with them on group projects.
I think that's brilliant.
It worked great. But yeah, we wrote a whole interpreter for OBJ files, for ASCII OBJ files, and I designed this whole little Jabba's palace. And for our final project, we made R2D2 dance in Jabba's palace. So it was fun.
That's pretty awesome. So now
the class was terrible. The book was good. Oh dear.
So Android development is Java. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
No?
It's JVM.
Okay.
So anything you write for the JVM can run on, basically be turned into an Android app. Classically it's been Java. You can run C++ kind of native libraries compiled directly to the architectures of each platform.
Okay.
But you're less likely to be guaranteed that will run on all devices, because if somebody comes out with, we got Android to run on this weird chip that nobody's heard of, your C libraries are never going to run on that.
Gotcha. So,
and then more recently, I guess it was a little bit older, Scala was very popular as a functional programming language, and Scala was one you could do Android with for a while. It got really popular in certain circles and sort of never made it out of that. Kotlin is the big new one, and Kotlin is a serious maturing of Java. It's pretty much all of the flexibility and power with more and less syntax. So you can write everything faster, it's more powerful, it does more things for you automatically.
Okay.
And it actually runs, I think, slightly faster. It's a really well designed language.
So if someone wanted to get into Android app development, and they had no prior knowledge, would you recommend that would be where they start?
If you want to get into Android, you're gonna have to know both, and you might have to know both. The thing with Java is, if you're writing a new project, no one's gonna question your use of Kotlin. Like, Kotlin is the way to go. It's okay. There are no reasons to use Java over Kotlin.
Okay.
It is a very one-sided discussion. This is Objective-C moving to Swift in iOS. This is like, the platform is going this direction. However, all of everything is already written in Java. So, you got the, switch the US to the metric system problem. Every company I know right now is like, yep, we need you to know Java and Kotlin so that you can take all of our old Java code and rewrite it in Kotlin. And that is the job market. Everybody wants you to have both. Kotlin is a more valuable one to learn to do well, I think.
Okay. Now language-wise, so you've been doing Android app dev for quite a while, so you've professionally been living in the Java world.
Pretty much, yeah. Yes, that's accurate.
Okay. Outside of the professional world, what languages do you use and why?
I've used a little bit of a lot of stuff. Depends on what I'm doing. Someone set me up with Perl for a couple web scripts.
I'm sorry.
Then there was some PHP.
I'm not sorry about that.
Python. I don't mind Python. Python's actually pretty decent. It's not terribly fast, but if you can get a good compiler for it, it can be fast. And you can do a lot of things with it. It's a really great scripting language for if you just want to get stuff to move around your computer, or if you want to batch edit files. Python's a really great language to, kick off image magic scripts and stuff with, if you don't want to use bash scripting, which is a little more Linux specific. But yeah, there's a lot of really good kind of languages out there. I've used probably 10 throughout my programming career. I couldn't name all of them for you. I mean, hell, I'm playing Minecraft. I programmed in Lua. I programmed in Forth. I programmed in... God damn it, LRM. Yeah, like, there's... Sorry, what was the original question? I feel like I'm getting off the rails.
Just in your own personal coding adventures, what languages have you chosen and why?
Yeah, it's been pretty task based essentially. I am going to try to set up a new web service based on Kotlin, so it'll be a JVM kind of deal. But I've found a couple libraries that will actually convert Kotlin code to JavaScript code. So you can have a single library or a single project with different modules that builds your backend, your communications system, your app, and your front end, in theory, all based on Kotlin code. Some of it gets compiled down to JVM, some of it gets compiled to JavaScript. And then in theory, it all works together. And if you have a communications layer, then your models are written once and used on both places. So you're always in communication on the same page.
That's actually really interesting.
I don't know if I'm going to get it to work, but we're going to try it. We're going to see if we can get it to do anything.
That sounds like the right recipe for... I have no idea if this is going to work, but we're going to try it.
It'll be some fun streams, probably, actually. I'm gonna probably stream that attempt. Among the projects on that, we'll be getting a Twitch API connector going. So, like, I'll have one module in the project that's just the Twitch API. Doesn't do anything but, convert the method call of get user ID to it makes a network call and comes back and gives me a number.
Yep. I mean, that's the microservices architecture.
Yeah, exactly. And then you build a higher level module, then uses that and says, okay, well, if I need to get data, I have a Twitch API. Call, get, done. It takes more steps than, if you're using JavaScript sometimes, and you can just... Your operating system is load web page, kind of, in a sense. There's more steps to it, I guess. But once you do it, you can kind of get some really interesting results.
So when it comes to streaming code, and it's becoming a lot more of a thing now than it has been in the past. And I know you've been on and off with streaming for a very long time, and you've done some coding streams. What is your interest in doing code on stream? And what do you think you get out of doing it publicly versus doing it kind of in the background?
So for one, it's just interesting to people. And I like having someone to talk with while I'm doing my work. It's even better if I can talk with someone about what I'm working on while I work. So it's kind of a social thing, I guess. It tickles a social funny bone.
Have you ever done pair coding before?
I have done pair coding, and ultimately that's what certain people in your chat end up becoming.
Okay.
If you're doing coding on stream, is people backseat game, certain people backseat code. You'll get a lot more lurkers in a coding stream, though, because most people don't know what's going on. They just find it fascinating, and they're like, "Oh, well, look at all these. You're just changing these numbers, and a different result happens. This is kind of cool." So there's a little bit of that kind of ASMR aspect to it. This is entertainment and content, and I'm just creating this for people to enjoy.
Okay.
Maybe listen to while they work on their project. But then, it's a really good way to have people point out your stupid mistakes before you try to compile them. You're like, oh, you didn't change that variable. That's going to end up with a bad result. It's like, oh, yeah, good, thanks. Fix that. And then you roll up and down the the code, and everybody gets a good look at it, and you run it and like fails, and everyone's like, haha, you forgot the thing. Right, you held out on me. It makes it fun. It makes it kind of entertaining. I wouldn't do it on a professional project. It does slow me down a bit, but it makes it more enjoyable.
Okay. Have you ever contributed to open source?
I haven't. Technically, yes.
Oh.
Technically, yeah. Not in a serious fashion. I've committed a couple like very, very small fixes of like, oh, you guys didn't just add this one variable from here to here in order to pass this data through to this section of the code. Here's a pull request. It passes all your unit tests. Can I have it in? Yes, no.
That's contribution. Like that. Trust me, that's a lot of contribution compared to nothing.
Well, okay. There's an IRC library that now supports emotes. Twitch emotes in the /me actions better because of my game code. Was that Pirkbot X? I don't remember what that was.
I've been so out of the IRC bot. I mean, back in the old MIRC days. Like I shouldn't say old because it is still around.
Oh yes.
And it is updated and it is all its wonderful glory. But
XKCD has a wonderful comic on people who will never let go of their beloved IRC chats. I have it set up just the way I want it. It's fine. Just don't leave it alone. Everybody else's brain has been uploaded to the universal consciousness. Yeah, but my interface is just.
The W3C still holds all of its meetings. We use IRC for accessibility.
Oh yeah.
So we have a scribe who writes everything down for those who cannot either call in or those who are deaf. And it is used for a queuing system. We've got a queue bot that manages our question queue. So it's
that's perfect.
It's impressive.
I mean, to be honest, I think it was a very good decision on Twitch's part to support IRC as their chat mechanism because it allowed developers to do so many very cool things with their chats so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it worked. Like it never didn't work. It always logically just worked.
I can tell you a lot of times when Twitch chat didn't work.
Twitch chat may have gone down, but IRC.
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 Okay. Yeah, IRC is a technology.
As a technology, it had many. Twitch chat has gone down. I've witnessed many of those. Oh, geez. So, what was early internet like for you?
Early internet. Well, I first heard of the internet as part of America Online. My first internet connection was done over a device that went beep-a-dee-dee-doo. It was great. I don't remember the baud rate of the modem. I'm sorry. That's everybody who's older than me always asks that. So there's probably someone in chat who's like, "Oh, what kind of modem?" I don't remember. I was too young. I was probably like 10. But it was very much. It was pretty restricted. My parents were concerned about letting me just kind of loose on the internet and searching anywhere. And honestly, that was probably smart. And I would question anybody who's just letting their kids loose on the internet completely at early ages. So
I would say that is common knowledge today.
Okay. It was not necessarily
back in the 90s. Nobody knew. My dad was just like, I know this internet thing seems neat and there's info on it, and AOL says it's blocking adult content, so have a blast. Yeah. I mean, they did give me the don't tell anyone where you live and don't meet anyone from the internet.
Yeah.
And
that was got that talk.
Yeah, I got that talk. But the ironic part is I met a bunch of people that I've met through BBSs and such, and every one of them was cool. One of them was a little weird, but he wasn't scary weird. He was just weird.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, some people just are.
Yeah.
I would consider myself a weird person, so.
So then what was like
So yeah,
if you were
yeah.
really restricted, did you actually like enjoy it, or was it just like, all right, well, this is kind of boring?
I loved information resources. I can't tell you how
Okay.
many hours I spent on like Encarta and Wikipedia and stuff. Just oh man, like that was my childhood. The Wikipedia click hole. Just late into the night. It'd be like 4 a.m. My dad knocks on my door, like, "What are you doing still up?" I'm like, well, it started by looking at the formula in algebra, and it ended somewhere in toads having parasites growing out of them. How the hell did we get here? I was working on a paper for college. But yeah, it was so there was a lot of that. There was mostly games, to be honest. Between like information resources and games were the kind of the two areas that I was really allowed on the internet.
Okay.
And games were kind of more the trouble side of that too, because they were where I was exposed to other kids who didn't necessarily have the same restrictions, and then I found all these neat sites on circumventing restrictions, and then that whole I was one of those kids. But yeah, I ended up in most of my early online interaction was kind of over online games. RuneScape was my first one. I played that for a while. Then I did something stupid, got my account banned. I don't remember what it was. Kind of frustrated. I was like, all right, well, let's. I enjoy this MMO thing. Like I've played other games. I enjoy other games, but this MMO thing where I get to play with other people online is kind of new. And I really liked that. I could have friends there. I wasn't really comfortable in my skin at the time as me. So being able to be online and have my intellect be the thing that people appreciated rather than kind of the awkward antisocial mess that I was at the time, it was very freeing. So I ended up in EverQuest for a little bit, and then World of Warcraft for 14-day free trials, and a couple other just like random those like Korean and Chinese MMOs that are popping up all over the place because it's so damn popular over there. And then eventually ended up in Guild Wars, where I found a bunch of ladies who became my friends for the next 5 years. So that was a good run.
Now, did you ever try to make any games yourself? Or I guess I should rephrase that. Did you make any games on your own? Because I'm trying is a whole other issue.
Multiple, and I didn't actually host any of them anywhere, and I don't think anybody has played them except my immediate family. None of them are really good. They're very simple examples of a concept that if I put polish into, I could make into very fun games. But they were simplistic, and I kind of proved that I could do the get it to work part, and then lost interest at the polish. And I can't tell you how many projects I have that are in that state. It's like, it works now. Done.
Yep.
With, so much more planned in them. But yeah, I had mostly little top-down 2D games. I had a bullet hell shooter. I had it was almost more of a puzzle game. But you were like a little tank and driving through a minefield, and you had to like avoid the traps and stuff.
Ooh.
And depending on what upgrades you could find, if you drove over the air recycler, you could drive through the poison gas clouds and stuff like that. Goofy little stuff like that. I was a big fan. I built one. Have you ever played Geometry Wars?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I built kind of a Geometry Wars clone, sort of, and I was using it mostly to play around with the APIs because there's some really interesting like movement prediction APIs that it was using. So I was using those APIs to get things to evade bullets and stuff, so you couldn't shoot them as easily. So that was part of the challenge, I guess, of my version, is that a lot of them would try to intelligently avoid your attempts to destroy them.
That's actually intelligent artificial intelligence.
was good at guessing where you're shooting.
Hey, trying not to die is intelligence. That actually, I believe that
self-preservation.
Self-preservation is one of the determining factors of intelligence. So what would your ideal work dev position be? So if someone said, I will pay your target salary, but you have to code or you have to create in that sense. So I guess, yeah, I'll open it a little broader. If someone were to pay you your like desired salary to go do something, you just had to produce. At the end of the day, something had to come out.
It didn't matter what I produced as long as there was a product and that someone
Yeah,
could
I mean, yeah, it could be
potentially
code,
sell.
could be a code project, could be digital, could be physical.
I mean, a couple of them are kind of being done already, and it's a little late to start on that. But I was really looking into like tabletop platforms for a while.
Okay.
Where you have a virtual tabletop and you can import resources and put tokens on it and play tabletop games over the internet. I always thought that would be a very fun thing to code. There's a whole bunch of them now that have just sprung up out of nowhere because of COVID has suddenly shown everyone that this is a good idea instead of just me sitting in my office like there really should be a better version of Roll20. Let's see.
Well, I mean, I'm boiling it down a little
fun.
more. Not specifically the idea, but like, would it be making Android apps? Would it be making games? Would it be making props? Would it be like because?
No, I think I would want to do like, to be honest, movie props.
Okay.
Like high quality functional movie props, the kind of thing that they would put in all the fancy scenes, where
So like Adam Savage's old job, and Grant Imahara and all them.
I follow Adam Savage. He's great, and I love a lot of his one day builds. His ideas on first order accessibility for all his tools. For those of you who aren't familiar with that, that's if you want to build a workstation, an ideal workstation is set up so that no matter what you want to do, no matter what tool you need, you do not have to move anything to get that tool. So no matter what you need, you can reach in, grab it, pull it out. It's there. It's in your hand. And so you can't do like shelves stacked all the way full and have that work, right? Because the things that are back behind, you have to dig for them. So he builds a lot of his toolkits where they open up and all the tools are kind of sticking up. So it's just a down in there. I need that bit head, and then whatever handle comes with it. So it's it's a lot on efficiency, and honestly, that comes down to a lot of my motivation. I like making things that are efficient. I like doing things that are done in an efficient manner.
That's good to know. So how
I don't always live up to it, but that's the goal.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
So,
I think I would build those kind of like robotic props, like like I said, Ruby weapons, stuff like that, where it actually lights up and does something. I don't think there's enough of a market for it. At least not the way I envision it. They want
not part of the question.
They just want something that they can have, put in someone's hand and they go bang, and then later in special effects, it's like.
Well,
the actor's like, man, that was so much cooler than when I held it in my hand.
Movie props do sell. People buy custom stuff. I mean, but
I think there's a possibility, like if I got enough of a capital and I could spend some time, I could really build up my skill set and then put out some really high quality pieces, get my name out there if I spread it across enough social media sites and stuff, and then start auctioning them. Let's build something really, really cool and auction it to someone way too much money, and then use that to fund some of the stuff that I could, maybe build an Etsy store with and, sell more generally. So I don't know. It's kind of a place I would like to get to. I would also like to be an inventor. I would also like to get back into paintball. I would like. I have more interests than I have time for in like 20 lifetimes. So
better that than bored.
Yes. Agreed. Hard agree.
So how does martial arts fit into this picture, or does it not, and that's the whole point?
It's kind of it's a compliment in some ways, and a weird monkey wrench thrown in here in a lot of others. I think a lot of people conceptualize a martial art as just the physical skills, your physical body conditioning, you're learning the muscle memory that you need to, execute a chop or a block or whatever. And they don't focus on kind of the responsibility and the maturing aspects of the martial art that are also supposed to come with it. And a lot of places don't teach that, and that's kind of why that happens that way. But I don't understand people well. I don't get along with people interpersonally well. I don't get subtlety. If you are not blunt with me, I will probably miss it. It's just a thing. But the way I was brought up, kind of through the martial arts system, is always like, okay, just be patient, de-escalate conflicts, assume the other person isn't doing, all this de-escalation, this personal, I guess, conditioning of your reactions to things really helped me get along in society. In a lot of situations where I probably wouldn't have done well otherwise, because someone was, pissing me off, and I had the good graces to step away from the conversation instead of deck him, which probably would have resulted in a fractured jaw, given how much force I can put behind my punches. When people think, oh yeah, you'll learn a lot martial art, it makes you powerful. Yeah, but it also makes you responsible. And you have to be. And if you're not, then you're probably causing problems somewhere. So, it definitely has touched in every aspect of my career across literally everything I've done, just simply because it gave me a mindset that was better for a lot of situations I've gotten into.
Okay. And how long have you been doing it, and what art? I'm not.
Yeah.
You know the question I'm asking. I just don't know the right word.
Yes.
What form?
System.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, my throat is doing terrible things. Clearly, I'm going to need to work on my streamer voice. If I want to, gotta get that stamina back up. Do some lifts with my tonsils. So I should actually start before I started martial arts. The story is kind of cute. I was 6. It was summer. We were playing around in the neighborhood. There's some neighbor kids. Their cousin was over. We were horsing around. It was all good fun. And I hurt somebody.
Okay.
And, it happens, right? Shit happens on a playground or on the asphalt in the middle of the street. We had a little cul-de-sac. It was pretty safe to play on. So, I did my thing. I was like, oh, I'm really sorry, stop. I'm 6 years old. I don't really know how to do this, but like someone is hurt. So obviously you stop and you make sure they're okay. That's how all the adults do it. And he walks straight up to me and decked me right across the face. And I went home and I cried and I decided never again. So that winter I signed up for martial arts. My cousin had been doing it and I was like, that's the way. I'm not going to get punched ever again. And I haven't been. Nobody's also taken a swing at me because of, again, all that kind of that mindset conditioning that you do. I've avoided fights. I haven't needed to do it. But yeah, I was 7. That was 1997. December when I started. So it's been almost 23 years.
Wow.
All of it at the same school. It's a very self-defense focused, very, very family values. They consider themselves Kenpo karate and Escrima. Kenpo karate is a style of karate. Escrima is a different system. I'll explain all these. Just give me a second. It's complicated. basically, our head instructor founded his school with a couple other guys. They had a chain going for a little bit before the Oregon branch did some weird things and it dissolved. His idea was, okay, let's take Ed Parker Kenpo Karate, which was a pretty popular system at the time. The word karate just means empty hand. It's karate, empty hand. That's literally the style of martial art. Kenpo Karate is a type of empty hand fighting. There is Kenpo and there's Kenpo Karate, and I don't know the differences between them. I'm not that much into
one you close your hand, one you open. Sorry.
Maybe, yeah, there you go. Anyway, it is in general considered a hard style martial art. So you are expected to learn to punch hard, to break boards. It's very stiff, rigid movements, that kind of stuff. Your chops, your blocks. And then they also taught Escrima, which is a very different system. This is a very flowy system. This is circles. This is passing by your passing the attack by your head instead of trying to stop it directly. And it's also really good with improvised weapon systems. Escrima does a lot of short stick, medium stick combat. They go all the way through like swords and staves as well. Everything they do assumes that you're using a blade. All the techniques generally have everything lined up so that if you're striking, these knuckles are perfectly lined up with where the blade would be if you were using a bladed weapon. So it's a very versatile system if you really need to improvise a weapon. We've literally had classes where we brought kitchen implements and some gal defended herself with a soup ladle. It was damn effective. No, I'm serious.
I believe it. I just am picturing somebody with a soup ladle.
Oh, yeah.
It's very Jackie Chan.
It's so because it had that 90-degree angle, it worked a lot like some of the hooked martial arts weapons. You could get that behind someone's wrist or behind their weapon and pull, and then suddenly they're off balance and boom, hit them on the head with the bowl. It was great. But yeah, so Kenpo Karate and Escrima, and then we also did Kobudo Camp, where we hired a fifth degree black belt master from Okinawa to fly out and teach Kobudo to our entire school for a week, and we did this multiple summers in a row. And his thing was, he understands that every martial arts has kind of a foundational base of learning how to move your body in a way that you want it to, rather than the way it kind of naturally reacts. And if you have that base, then just learning a new form that's just high level knowledge on top of that base you already have. The systems are that high level knowledge, and the base level control over your body is kind of common. So if you had a rank in our system and you learned the Kobudo forms with the weapons that he was teaching us, you could have a rank in that system as well. So I ended up with 3 black belts, two second degree and 1 first degree. Kenpo Karate and Escrima are my seconds, and then Kobudo is the first degree, because I stopped doing that and then I ranked up. We ran out of time to do summer camp essentially. It's really interesting stuff. Like, self-defense is a wild field to study, because it changes. Boy, when I first started, we were learning wrestling defenses. Who does wrestling anymore? It's really not common. It was all the rage among kids my age when I was 7. But it wasn't. I had like 3 or 4 wrestlers in my karate class at one point. A lot of people would go in and out. They would learn different systems, then come into our school and then leave for a while. Ruined a friendship by bringing him into my school and then beating him. He was so pissed that his taekwondo wasn't working against me. Yeah. But yeah, that's just not a thing really that's emphasized anymore. I don't see it. Like, people still do wrestling. It's still a sport, but it's not the craze it is anymore. These days it's MMA.
Yeah.
So it's the system changes. every martial arts system is a living system unless you're studying something specifically set in a point of time, and this is a traditional system. We're going to learn it the way they did back then. A modern martial arts system has to adapt. So now we do a lot more of, stuff against MMA type attacks. How do you get out of these attempted wrist locks? How do you get out of these attempted, that kind of stuff? Push someone off of a headlock. And then we have to talk about cell phones. Because holy shit, nothing has changed the self-defense scene more than literally everybody carrying a video camera that streams to the internet live in their pocket at all times.
So I'm interested. So then how does, I mean, I can think of some, but I'm just not going to feed anything. And just in what ways do you talk about that within your class?
Yeah. So we go over all the legal ramifications, because there's a lot that goes into a self-defense encounter, the mental states that you go through during an attack, and the ones after, where you're calming down, you're still on that adrenaline high. And public perception, like court of public perception, is big right now, and it's unfortunate that it is, because the justice system isn't working. But everyone these days is judged in the court of public opinion, for probably worse, but better than no justice system at all. What that means is, depending on the specific words you say or actions you take during a self-defense encounter that is now documented from 3 different angles in full HD quality, it can sway your court case dramatically. And so in the past, you're accosted down a dark alley and someone wants your money. You have a few options, and if you end up in a court case, it's very easy to argue, like, yeah, he was threatening me, I feared for my life. Now everyone's going to nitpick. Did you really fear for your life? Was that really threatening enough to hit him that hard? So it becomes kind of a headache of how little damage can I do to stop him from continuing without looking like I'm beating him into the dirt, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want to hurt people. That's not the goal. You want them to stop hurting you. That's self-defense. It means you really need to be that kind of almost emotionless, I'm bigger than you, I'm not going to fight you because I know this is useless kind of a person. And the moment you're not that person, it's a problem. It's in court and they can take you to task for it. So it's it's a balancing act, and in the moment you're gonna have to make some decisions, and then you're gonna have to live with them afterwards. And what happens there is you do the best you can. You try to give your side of the story, but at the end of the day, you have to be more careful than the criminals, because they're judged on a different standard than you are. And they're more okay with going to jail than you are.
That's probably true. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's not a terribly fun subject to talk about.
It's defense is it's
it can get rough. You have to talk about some pretty rough subjects sometimes.
Yeah. It's most certainly. Well, it is 11:20, and on that, so I normally wrap up with a few questions. So I will
Sure.
I will toss them out there, and we'll see.
Let's do it.
So we'll start with you want a softball or a hardball?
Oh, surprise me.
So what advice would you give? And I know you gave I asked a little roundabout earlier, but to someone who is just wanting to get into, we'll say, Android app development, because that's what you know best. So someone either switching careers or fresh out of school, they want to break into the world of Android app development. What advice would you give them in their journey?
Start with coding fundamentals. obviously. But more than just the language, learn really what your coding kit does under the hood. Understand the implications of what happens. From there, get into efficient use of data structures and efficient use of memory and multi-threading. And once you have all of those down, start looking at the actual Android platform, because like I kind of mentioned earlier, when you're on an app, you can't just waste time, and it's very easy to, if you don't know what you're doing, accidentally do something that's highly wasteful in the worst context possible. So, like, for example, the last project I worked on, the company that I just quit, I pulled a piece of code out that counted array indices to tell you how big the array was. Now, look, any coders in the room and Lowen are cringing right now, because they all know that every array in every programming language has this neat little dot size thing you can call that tells you the size of the array. So the example my professor gave was, how many steps are there in the Eiffel Tower? Like, well, you could climb the Eiffel Tower and count every stair. What if you forget? Okay, so you have a notepad and you climb a stair and then you go back and you write down, oh, 1 stair. And you climb 2 stairs and you go back, yep, I found a second one. And you climb up 3 stairs and you go back and I write down, find the third. And people are like, oh, yeah, this is n squared if you know about your time complexity. Or you can take the notepad with you and you can count off the stairs one at a time as you go up. Or you can get on the elevator, go straight to the top, and there's a guy standing in there at the sign that says there are exactly this many stairs in the Eiffel Tower. Pick the easiest option. You always want to pick the easiest option. The one that does the least amount of calculating to get the result you want. These days, that's called your cell phone and Google, which is even faster than taking the elevator. It doesn't cost you the entry ticket. And learning to be that kind of efficient coder is, you kind of need that core skill set. When I say multi-threading, I mean Android requires you to not do sequential programming. You have at minimum 2 different threads you're working with. The main thread that does everything with the UI, that you don't control and that may be taken away from you at any time. Oh yeah, the main thread's fun. And the background thread, which isn't defined by the system, but must be used if you're doing network disk I/O. You're not allowed to do I/O on the main thread. So literally every app will always have those 2 threads. And learning good paradigms for structuring your code, how to segregate those pieces off in little microservices, to abstract away the complexity so they're easier to conceptualize, easier to think about, easier to plug into each other like little Legos. Those kinds of skills will be really important. Once you have all that, Android's actually not that hard. You just have to be kind of aware of what events happen when and what you're allowed to do where. Is kind of just, it's a complex system to work in. And the rules for how you are given resources and those resources are taken away from you as the user performs, enter this app or leave this app actions, they're really outside of your control, and you have to be able to program around all of those flying at you all at once, sometimes asynchronously. So it's just complicated. If you want an easy app route, you could try the React Native, where you can program Android apps in a cross-platform JavaScript that also does iOS. That might be easier. I don't know. I don't do it because the results you get are decidedly less impressive. They are cross-platform. Mm-hmm. They cost you less effort to build. You can get something stood up faster. It will just never run quite as fast or be as flexible.
Yeah,
is kind of the end statement there. It's what goal are you trying to achieve? Do you want a really well done app, or do you just want something quick and I got it done?
Yep.
And honestly, sometimes quick and I got it done is the right way to go.
Oh yeah, I mean
it's
yeah.
not my thing, but
yeah,
I mean that would be my advice. It's kind of, look, you're in it for the long haul. You're gonna have to learn a lot of skills to be a good mobile developer. But yeah,
Android's not going anywhere though.
No, Android's not going anywhere. Apple's not going anywhere.
Nope.
Sorry.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
And now the harder question.
That was not the hard one.
No, that's the easy one. If you could send a message back in time to your younger self, let's say 15, 16 years old, and it couldn't include stock symbols. Short message, less than a paragraph. What would it be?
Less than a paragraph to my former self.
To your former self. Well, to you at 16.
Man, there's so much. I'd never be able to fit it in a paragraph. I've changed a lot since I was 16. Sorry, this is an emotional one for me. I was not a good person when I was 16. I tried, but the habits I had been taught were harmful. I was every bit the problematic right-wing fringe Christian cult problem child that a lot of people on the internet were. It's hard to think about. I think I would want to reassure myself that I would get through it. Like, a lot of changes, especially at 16, a lot of changes are going to happen over the next decade for you. Be willing to roll with them. Be willing to grow with them. This is growth. This is you becoming a better person. Man, if I could list the mistakes I'd made to maybe not make those, I don't know. There's some good lessons I learned because of that. Some of them.
Well, I appreciate who you are today.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Me too. Sorry to break down at the end of the interview.
No, I'm sorry to to make you dig so deep.
It's kind of part of my personality. I can't recall memories without also recalling the feelings associated with them.
Okay.
And so when you start associating memories with negative emotions, like regret for the way I acted and stuff, it all ends up attached.
Mm-hmm.
So you pull on that thread and you get the whole ball of yarn, and then it's just overwhelming. One of my other strange mental quirks is I have all of my sensitivities turned up to 11. A couple friends of mine think that it's probably autism or an expression of it. I haven't had an official diagnosis, but the way that expresses it for me with all of my senses, including emotion, is all of my amplifiers are turned up. My senses physically are not any better than any other humans, but all the amplifiers are turned up.
Mm-hmm.
So rough fabrics feel scratchy. Low sounds that most people don't even notice get past that noise gate of like, I don't care about anything less noisy than this. Lots of stuff gets above that. So I can tell you exactly right now whether or not the LED on my vape pen is on, because it's blinking right now, and I can hear the difference in the transformer whine as it changes from LED on, LED off, LED on, LED, like stuff like that. So, stimulus is intense, and it's overwhelming in a lot of cases, and emotion is definitely one of those. So when I pull up some of those memories, man, it's a ride. It's not always a good ride.
Well, I appreciate you making it through that ride.
Yeah, of course. I don't mind it too much. I think it's good that people see each other cry sometimes. It's important that we see each other break down and deal with our emotions and get through it.
I could not agree more.
I don't mind it so much. It's uncomfortable to do, but
it's also human, and it's also normal, and it's also emotions are different for everybody, and I think that's completely acceptable as well.
Yep. Yep.
So,
All right. Well,
on that, is there any final comments you wanna leave with?
yeah, have empathy. I've been doing a lot of political reading lately. We're going through a lot of difficult times in this. Yeah, 2020 is quite a year, right? The military psychologist assigned to watch over the prisoners of the Nuremberg Trials. The Nuremberg Trials, for those of you who don't know of history, these are ex-Nazis. These are the people at the end of World War II, committed terrible crimes, and he wanted to know why. This man, the reason he went out there and he spent all this time talking to these guys, he wanted to know what common piece among every evil person he could find would create something like the Nazi regime. And he concluded that it was a lack of empathy, a genuine inability to feel for and feel with your fellow human beings. Have empathy. Sorry.
No, do not be sorry. I cannot think of a better line to end with, and I completely agree. I think we need to have empathy. So,
Yeah.
on that note, I will say thank you to everybody. You and I can stay on and still chat.
Think so.
I
Yeah,
will.
okay. I'm down to hang for a bit.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you so much, Aerin. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you being open. I appreciate you telling some funny stories, and I appreciate
and don't worry,
you being you.
I promise I won't be like this for long. I bounce back quick, so
it's all good.
Yeah.
And everybody else, I will see you all next week. And
cool.
bye.
Hopefully, I'll actually be able to catch that one.